Hey everybody, Dr. Greco here. Welcome to Ministry in a Minute. So we've been talking about prayer all week, and I want to finish the week discussing the relationship between holiness and praying. And I know that people would think that they were related in a direct way. Being holy means you're someone who prays, and that's kind of true, but I think there's an integrity issue in prayer. And here's what I mean by that. Our lives should be unified around one thing, our faith. And prayer obviously is part of that faith. We've talked about, hearing from God and having a relationship with God and getting a vision from God. But the Bible calls us to do a lot of different things. It calls us to pray. It calls us to go to church. It tells us that we should, obey God's rules. And so much of what's written in there is how we organize our life and have a lifestyle that honors God, and prayer being a part of that. But I think those things are connected more directly than we give them credit for. And here's what I mean by that. In James chapter 4 and chapter 5, this comes up twice. In chapter 4, James writes this: when you ask, you do not receive. In other words, when you pray, you don't get what you pray for, because you ask with the wrong motives, and that you may spend what you get on yourselves. Now, the root of all sin is pride. And when you're looking at yourself as you pray, it's going to cause your prayers not to get answered. Then James says something similar in the other direction. At the end of chapter 5, he says, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you'll be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. See, I believe that there's a direct connection between holiness and powerful prayers. Because if we're living the kind of lives God calls us to, I think that not only He answers them as a blessing, which it says in Deuteronomy, but I think also that we understand what to pray for more. It says in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, that if we are transformed by the renewing of our mind, we'll know God's will. And so I think this connection between living for God and praying powerful prayers is direct. In fact, you kind of can't have one without the other. They go together. And if we were living and loving and viewing the world the way God said to, I think we would know what prayers to pray. And I think we would be in God's will, and we would see those prayers answered powerfully. We'll see you next week for another Ministry in a Minute.